Your energy flows where attention goes. So if your
Mm,
attention is on abundance, on health, on, whatever you're trying to attract into your life more, that's what you're going to draw to you. So
mm,
focusing on that outcome as if you
wow.
already have it.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another visit of Office Visits with Dr. V. I'm your lovely host, Benita Williams Vernado. I am a board certified OBGYN and a board certified lifestyle wellness physician. And my goal is to help you have a healthier and happier life. One reason I started the podcast is because in this medical space, there really nothing against TikTok and Instagram, but I really wanted to have reliable folks who have, studied and mastered their craft to be out in the airwaves. And so I have enjoyed all of my guests. And as usual, they are always prepared and they have receipts and they are living the life that we are aspiring to. And so, once again, have not failed you. I have a wonderful, wonderful guest. Her name is Kate Galliher. Woo! Now, I met Kate a few months ago, but now I'll briefly tell you she is an RN, but she's not here to talk about nursing. And she's really not here to talk about like hospital and medical stuff. She is here because she got out of debt. She got out of debt. And just listening to her and talking to her, I just felt like, you know what? That seems like you're not as stressed. And there definitely is a connection. One of the pillars of lifestyle medicine is stress management. And so when you have a lot of debt and you owe a lot of people and you don't have enough money, that can be stressful. And so I had to get her on the show to just kind of tell us about her journey, how she got out of debt, and what that meant to her life. So, welcome, Kate.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here with you today.
Absolutely. And guys, this you might be listening to this on the podcast, but we're on YouTube. Kate has a megawatt smile. She had braces. She has beautiful teeth, beautiful teeth.
Oh,
And
that's
it's a
funny.
smile that comes from her soul. So I cannot wait to hear how you got that smile because it looks like you are truly happy. So real quick, you could just give us your bio because you're not just a nurse, you're a lot of other things that I have learned since preparing for this podcast.
Yeah, that's funny because when you listen to a lot of podcasts and you start to hear people talk about their bios and then you're thinking, well, who am I? And,
Yeah.
I didn't want to have some, you know, existential crisis about who I am, and then it's like, in what priority do I put them to? So, who am I? I think first and foremost, I'm a mom. I have 4 kids. I'm a wife. Professionally, I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for 20 years, 22 years actually.
Wow.
I used to teach yoga and group exercise and dance, and I worked for Weight Watchers, and I was a wellness coordinator at one of my nursing jobs, which I really enjoyed. So, I'm just a person who knows a little bit about a lot of things.
A lot of things. But y'all, isn't she our type of guest? Like she's wellness, she's yoga, she's everything. Real quick, tell me about you're a lifetime member of WW. So usually
Mhm.
that means you've lost a significant amount of weight. Is that true in your case?
Well, I mean, I guess it kind of depends on how you view your own body, right?
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm,
my journey with Weight Watchers, I think I lost 30 pounds the first
mm-hmm.
go around, which, for me feels like a lot. But
I
I
would love to
also,
lose 30 pounds, by the way. But go
yeah.
ahead.
So that was way back that was when we first moved to North Carolina, which is a kind of funny story in and of itself. I had been living in Charlottesville, Virginia for 16 years before we moved to North Carolina.
Wow.
And Charlottesville, Virginia is like, I call it a very crunchy town. It's very liberal. Everybody wears Birkenstocks and, we don't really, it's like not bougie at all. And
No fashionistas. Okay.
and then we moved to North Carolina. So I must have been, let's see, Hannah was 5 when we moved. So I was about 34, I guess, when we moved. So we moved to the Lake Norman area, which
Beautiful.
I don't know how many people from North Carolina might be listening, but we moved to the bougie side of Cornelius, not knowing because, we weren't from there. And I was just shocked at how all these moms looked like when we went to the pool. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't fit in here.
Wow.
And being somebody who's always struggled with body image issues and food, I was like, oh my gosh, I have got to get back to my goal weight. So I joined Weight Watchers. I met one of my best friends there. We stayed, we're still friends now. I got to my goal weight, and there's been fluctuations through the years, but I
Yeah.
really love, I don't know if I'm allowed to call it Weight Watchers. It was Weight Watchers when I did it. Now it's
Oh, that's
WW.
right. WW.
Um,
Yeah.
so I just love that program because I feel like, just like you always talk about balance and
Mm-hmm.
wellness, I feel like it really, out of all of the eating plans I have tried, which trust me, I have tried all of them, it really is the healthiest and the most balanced. And
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't I don't work for Weight Watch for WW now, and I'm not getting like any kickbacks from them. But just honestly, I do feel like it's a great program.
Yes, and
Yeah.
neither do I work for WW, but it has been studied extensively, not just, in the streets, but also in the medical literature. And it's very effective. And part of that is the accountability piece.
Hmm.
So, yes, I totally agree. Did they talk to you about finances in WW or
No,
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 they didn't? Okay. So let's
no.
segue into that because your story is really, really it's really inspiring, Kate. It really is. Just to see, it feels like the lightness that you have from it, I think is something that we all deserve to have. And we can have it if we focus on some of the things that you did. So, kind of tell us where you were before you started on your financial freedom journey.
Oh, well, I definitely wasn't as light as you feel I'm reflecting to you now. Well, so I was still working at the hospital. So this all kind of came to a head in late summer, early fall of 2021. And so, we were about a year and a half, almost 2 years into the pandemic by then.
Wow. Okay.
And the first year of the pandemic at the hospital, for me in labor and delivery, I can't imagine what the ICU nurses were going through and med surg nurses, but and we did have to deal with COVID on labor and delivery too,
Yeah.
but not anything like those, like the other people in the hospital were having to deal with.
Yeah.
So the first year really wasn't that bad for us. There was no traffic on the roads. There was
And
like all the extra patients who really didn't need to come to triage weren't there. People were bringing us food like every day.
yeah.
I mean, aside from like our faces having mask imprints on them,
yeah.
looking back, the first year was not the bad year. The
Hmm.
second year was when supply chain started breaking down. And we were running out of things, like basic things that we needed to take care of patients, like epidural catheters, Foley catheters,
Wow.
the medicines. It was just not anything that I could have ever imagined when I started my nursing career. And we were short staffed because everybody, was taking their coronacations, or they did actually have corona. People will
I
know what I'm
know
talking about.
I know what that is. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Keep going.
And other places of the hospital, when you're in the hospital, you can hear when there's a code being called on any other floor except for the emergency department, but you can hear them call codes.
Yes.
So to a point where we were like hearing codes being called several times an hour. And
Mm.
your heart just sinks like when you hear a code being called because somebody's dying,
Yes.
like, and that's
Yes.
very serious. And there was also when we would walk in from the parking deck every morning and every night, there was like the helicopter coming and going. So it
Mm.
really just there it was so heavy. I mean, it just really felt like
Yeah.
without the supplies and with the helicopter all the time, the way I felt, like I don't want to speak for other people, but my feelings in that situation were that I was like in a third world country
Yeah.
in a war. Because I would like, I don't know if you remember that show China Beach, but which was well, I think it was on in the 80s, but and I think it was about the Korean War. But anyway, they're like the opening scene was kind of like MASH, where,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
helicopters are flying in and people are running out. I mean, just
Yeah.
overwhelming. So at the hospital, like every day, I would just have this dread, like, are we going to have what we need to take care of our patients? Are we going to have enough staff to take care of our patients? Is there blood in the blood bank if we need it?
Mm.
Is there a possibility that I'm going to have to tell somebody that their partner or their baby didn't make it because we didn't have what we needed to take care of them?
Oh
And
gosh.
that didn't sit well with me at all. Like I never want to have that conversation with somebody.
Right.
So that was my work life. And then I would come home to three very angry teenage girls who were home because of virtual learning. And one of my oldest teenage girl was,
Ooh, child.
yes, was
You taking me back.
sent home from college. So she
Oh
was
gosh.
missing her college experience, and she was not happy, and she was not afraid to try to drag you down into her unhappiness with her.
Mm. Mm.
So, yeah, I would leave work not in a good place. I would get home and not be in a good place.
Mm.
And many, many days and nights, I would just lay down on the floor, literally
Oh my gosh.
lay on the floor. Yeah. One night, I even laid
Wow.
on my back deck and it was raining and I just didn't even care. Like, it was just this really crazy place of despair and
Mm.
feeling hopeless.
Mm.
And
Wow.
yeah, and then I was laying on the floor in my bedroom one night in the dark, and I heard this voice in my head, and it said, "Go to ground, go to ground."
Go to ground. Okay.
Yes, you need to go to ground. And I was like, huh, okay. The yoga teacher in me
Okay. Yeah. Go
knows
ahead.
that that means I need to go sit on my mat and meditate and ground my energy. Like we need to do some
Yes.
serious chakra work and I need to get it together.
I was getting ready to ask you that. I'm like, you're a yoga teacher, and I know you know how to do all of those things, but it seems like the weight of everything that was going on was so heavy that that didn't even come into your brain to
Yeah,
help you manage the stress that you were dealing with. So it definitely sounds like the voice was not you because you were
right.
like, huh, what is that? So, okay, finish the story. Go to ground.
Yeah. So, and then the other part of my my brain that probably watched too many vampire movies when I was a teenager was I have this image of like how like one of the ways a vampire can save itself if it's out during the daytime to rejuvenate is to like bury itself in the ground. Okay, so yeah, I'm a little bit odd too. So anyway, I was like, okay, well, both of these options sound very restorative. And I've always been, I would take the forest over the beach any day. So I was like, I got to buy some land. So it's crazy. So I was like, I got to buy some land. And long story short, we found like 9 acres of land on Facebook Marketplace, not too far from our house, about 40 minutes. And so we bought this land and had nothing on it except an outhouse because the person who used to own it camped there, but that was it.
Wow.
So we bought this land and I bought it by taking out a loan on my 401k from the
Uh,
hospital.
okay.
And then I was like, okay, cool. We got some land. I could go to ground there, literally, figuratively. Awesome. And then
Okay, hold on.
yes,
Question.
okay.
What happened to the yoga mat and like meditation? That seems like that would have been a cheaper, like
Uh,
quicker option. Did you do that too?
I mean, probably. I mean, I did yoga. I mean, I actually was one of those people who exercised throughout the pandemic. I don't own a Peloton, but I had the app and I got a cycle bike and, I did all that kind of stuff. But the voice in my head was really like stronger towards like, you got to get out of town. You need to get away from this
Mm,
crazy place. Like, you got to go.
mm.
So we did that. And then it turned out that I realized, okay, well, I've got this land, but I can't really enjoy it because now I got to work all the time to pay off my 401k loan. So
Okay.
that is how we really got intense about paying off our debt.
Mm, mm.
Yeah. So we were a
Okay.
pretty normal family in terms of like the kind of debt that we had. So yeah, so we had the 401k loan, we had a HELOC, I still had some student loans left over, some credit card debt from a trip. Uh-oh.
HELOC. Okay, we're educating. So somebody's like, I don't know what a HELOC is. What is a HELOC?
A HELOC is a home equity line of credit, which you can take out against your mortgage,
Hmm.
basically, based on the amount of equity that you have in your house. But it's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
It's a slippery
Yeah.
slope because your HELOC can end up being a variable interest rate instead of a fixed interest rate,
Right.
which I wasn't paying attention to when I
Mm.
took it out because we were renovating our house. And but anyway, I learned all about that kind of stuff on my getting out of debt journey. So yeah. And then the rest of it, like we went to Puerto Rico for our friend's wedding and we put some of that on the credit card and just some odds and end medical bills, things like that. So
Yeah.
pretty normal debt that most people have, but the total of it,
That's what I was getting ready to say. How much was that?
how
Drum
much?
roll.
Yeah, it was $102,000.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Okay, so just you saying that number, and I don't know if any of you guys listening, when you hear that number, there's a heaviness that comes with that. That's a lot of
Hmm.
money. That's a
Yeah.
lot of money. Were you carrying? I mean, like, did you know you had all of that debt, or was it only until you looked and like, we're gonna get focused on getting rid of this? Were you like, oh my gosh, we've got 100,000, over $100,000 worth of debt?
I don't think we were really thinking about it too much because, you just kind of pay the bill every month. And
Mm,
well,
mm-hmm,
I don't like to say you pay the like, so we were just paying the bill every month and it was fine. It wasn't like that big of a deal. It was like $250 here, $100 here.
mm,
My student loans were on deferment, so I wasn't even paying those. So it didn't seem that big really until I took out the loan on my 401k, because that was, I think I ended up splitting it between my 401k and the like money we still had left in the HELOC.
mm-hmm,
And so that made our very manageable amount of debt, which I guess was probably about $30,000 worth of debt before we bought the land,
mm-hmm,
skyrocket up
mm-hmm,
to
mm-hmm,
over 100,000. So I think that's when I was like, oh gosh,
mm-hmm.
this is a little bit much because I'd been trying to pay off all of our debt for a couple years and, I was what Dave Ramsey would call really good at moving money around. So it wouldn't seem like we had so much debt. Like I'd move things to zero interest credit cards and I'd be like, well, at least we're not paying interest on it. Or,
Interest, yeah.
I would pay things off with this, yeah. It was like, what's that game with the shells
The
and
shell game.
yeah, I just like, just keep moving it around. So, but then with the pandemic and feeling the way I was feeling and then getting the land, I wanted to be able to like actually go away. I just thought this is
Mm,
not the kind of life that I want to lead. This is not, I need a break. Like
yeah,
strong
yeah.
feelings of I need a break. I need a break. But I couldn't take a break. Couldn't take a break because I had to work. I've always been the steady paycheck in our house. I'm the breadwinner and I'm the steady. And I just didn't feel like I could take a break. And I didn't like feeling like that. I didn't like
Yeah.
feeling trapped. And so that was really what kind of lit the fire under me to be like, I got to get out of debt. I don't want to have to stay in a place that I'm feeling abused, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I want to be able to get out, and I can't get out if I owe people money.
So, first of all, let me just applaud you because there are people who live that life all the time, are still living it, want to get out, know they need to get out, but don't take any steps to do it.
Mhm,
And just having that feeling of, I have no options, I've got to do whatever it is to survive, that itself is stressful.
mhm,
And there's this new term, it's called weathering. So these little micro stressors over time, they're kind of not in your face,
mhm.
but over time, just the stress of that kind of takes a toll on your body, your immune system, your mental health. Ooh, we're not
Oh
gonna
yeah,
get. We're gonna have to. We're gonna address your mental health too. I'm sure that was something that probably you were affected by. But okay, so you need to get out. Got to get out. You bought land. We got debt. I need to
yeah,
go.
yeah.
Mm.
So I'm very fortunate to have a husband who pretty much will just go along with whatever scheme I have. So when I said, okay, it's really time to buckle down, we're doing the Ramsey plan, like, get ready. And he was like, okay. So we just decided to do it. I do find it interesting. So it's interesting that you brought up like WW, because what I find is being on a debt diet and being on a
Uh,
food
uh,
diet have
mm,
for me, are very similar.
wow.
And actually, right now, I didn't do this while we were paying off our consumer debt because I was too busy. But right now, I've been calling it my debt diary. However, I'm playing with calling it something else because I don't like to focus on debt. I feel like it's attracting more debt to me. But
Mm,
anyway, doing this like diary, like the parallels between how you can get to a healthier place with money and a healthier place with food. It's so
yeah.
tied to your experiences in life.
Ooh.
So, I mean, it's fascinating. But anywho, so this is how we got out of debt. So we've been listening to Dave Ramsey. I don't know, people might not know who Dave Ramsey is, but he also has a podcast and he has books. And we've been listening to his podcast, and he has the baby steps for getting out of debt. And so we became gazelle intense, which is what he calls it. Like, you're the gazelle, the lions are coming to get
It's
you,
chasing you.
and
Yeah.
you need to just run. So I told my husband, so I've always been the budgeter in our house. So I knew how much our monthly expenses were, how much our debt was, all of that stuff. So I knew that my husband could pay all of our household bills on his income. So then we used all of my income to pay off the debt.
Mm,
So I think that's one way that we're very fortunate. I'm fortunate to have a partner who had an income.
right.
Not everybody
Right.
has that. I think it's also interesting when I realized that, and as I continued, like, this has become a change in my mindset, is how much better would we have been doing all along if we had been
Yes.
living within our means?
Yes. I know.
Yes,
I
right?
know. I've heard about the 80% rule, and he's a multimillionaire and he's like 20 something, but
Mm,
he lived off of 20% of his income and saved and invested 80%.
yeah, so
And
smart.
I looked at my husband, I'm an OBGYN, you make good six figures. Like, we didn't do any of that. I would have been a multi millionaire three, four times had we done that. But we didn't know.
Right. Well,
We
why didn't
didn't
you know? Why don't
know.
we know these things?
Oh, Why don't we know?
because they don't want us to know.
They want us to stay in debt, huh?
They want us to stay in debt.
Mic drop.
They, wherever they are. But yes, I'm a firm believer in that being the way that, well, I'm just going to say, I'm just going to speak what I feel my truth is. This
Mm,
is the way that slavery has evolved.
mm,
So, you know, we, the general population has got to work because we've been manipulated into feeling like we need all of these things. And we've been given the opportunity to keep ourselves oppressed by being offered credit cards and loans and all of these things.
yeah.
Whereas you couldn't get all of those things a few decades ago. Couldn't get it. I think I was telling you the other day, I just went to that Racial Equity Institute 2-day training. Oh, it was fascinating. Maybe we could have another podcast about that one day. Or you need to have those people on because I learned things about slavery in this country that I had never learned in school. So
Yeah.
again, it's like things that they don't want us to learn in school. They don't want us to learn the truth about who has all the money, why they have all the money, and how they keep
Yeah.
us giving them all of the money.
Yes, yes. And how they got the money, yes.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah,
So,
we're not going to take that left,
yeah,
but there's a system, is what you're saying. And other countries don't live like this. Like, you
right.
go to the islands and you see a house half built. Why? Because they can only build as much money as they have at the time.
Hmm.
Nobody's giving them a loan to build and then pay it off later. So they
Right.
pay as they go and they're not in debt. Okay,
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah. So I told my husband he was going to be paying all the bills and I was going to work on paying off the debt, which
Okay,
I do not make $100,000 a year. So it was going to require more than my salary.
right.
So I don't wish COVID on, anybody ever again. But when you're a nurse and you work in the hospital during a pandemic, you can pick up as many shifts as you want.
Got it.
So
Okay.
I worked extra. They called it combat pay. I got overtime.
Mm.
So I was able to generate a lot more income than I would during a normal year. But then we did not eat out. I packed my lunch and my breakfast every single
Wow.
day. We
Wow.
didn't go anywhere. We had a huge garage sale and we sold as much stuff as we could. I canceled all of our streaming services.
Wait, wait, wait. You're talking like Netflix, Hulu, all that stuff?
Yep.
Did you have
So,
cable or were you guys watching
no,
TV?
we could watch TV because it was too late in the year for me to cancel my Amazon Prime. So we still had Amazon Prime and we still had something, I think HBO, because that also was like an annual membership. So we had that.
Wow.
And but, we didn't have time to watch TV. So we didn't really miss it because there wasn't time to watch TV. And oh, we rolled coins. I think I found like $400 worth of coins between my husband's truck, his nightstand, and just like the laundry room and in the couches. I mean, it was crazy. I was like, wow, who knew we had just all this money laying around the
Oh my
house?
gosh. $400 worth of
Yeah.
coins.
Yeah. The lady at
Man.
the bank, I mean, she's so nice. I can't even say that she rolled her eyes when I was coming in, but she would just be like, oh, okay.
Here she comes again. But
Yeah.
that's good because that's putting money in your bank account and you're getting out of debt. Wow.
Yeah.
I love hearing the focus. And, you know, these are doable things.
Hmm.
Like these are doable. Someone can go right now and look. I mean, because we all kind of have a change jar. Well, maybe we do. We do.
Yeah.
That's something easily that we could, attack today.
Yeah. I think that for so many things that really require discipline, it's hard for people because it's uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
and it's not convenient
Yeah.
and it's easy to get stuck in places because it's scary to get out of your comfort zone.
Right.
I think that I'm able to do that because that's just my personality. My personality is kind of like, if you give me a goal, like I'm very goal
Yeah,
oriented.
goal
So,
oriented. Yeah, me too.
so I'm just like, okay. And I like to start things on a Monday, so I'll be like, okay, on a Monday, it's like go time. So yeah, and like when you see progress
Yeah.
and it's easier to keep going and keep going and keep going. And so I use a budgeting app that is so nice. It's so easy. But it's also from the Ramsey network. But like you would list all your debts in there, and then as you're paying them off, they'd give you nice little emojis of like, you're doing a great job, keep up the good work,
Yeah, yeah.
stuff like that. So we were just totally just immersed in the plan and achieving our goal. And I had a lot of faith that it was going to work out because I knew that we were doing the right thing. There's a great, I guess it's a scripture quote from the Bible. It says, the borrower's slave to the lender.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so I would keep thinking that, I knew that God was the one that I was hearing telling me I needed to go to
yeah.
ground. And so I just knew that I was doing what God wanted me to do and that everything was going to work out. So I don't believe in like, poof, things are going to happen.
Yeah, yeah.
You have to know what you want, you have to visualize success, and you have to take the actual steps to making it happen.
Gotta put some action behind it.
Yeah.
Gotta. So the steps that you guys took, I love you rolled coins. That's $400. You stopped doing your streaming services. Do you know how much that was?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It was kind of crazy when I added up how much stuff we were streaming. I think it was like $120 a month.
A month? Wow. And then you had a yard sale because
Hmm.
all of us have too many things. How much money did you make off of the yard sale?
I was trying to remember that the other day because my mom came and helped me and was keeping track of the money, but I think we made $2,000 at the yard sale.
Wow. Wow. And
Yeah.
it was just stuff kind of lying around that you really didn't need. What was the stuff that you really
Some of it
you
was
hated
stuff.
to part with it?
Some of it was things that, I mean, I definitely could have kept using. Like we sold our dining room table and chairs, but it was the dining room table and chairs that were in the formal dining room that
That nobody
we
goes
didn't
in.
really use. And there were some dressers and desks and stuff that like my kid, again, it's like stuff they didn't use. I don't know about your
Yeah.
kids, but my
Oh
kids do all their work in their bed. They don't use their desks. I sold a bunch of jewelry that I had because I used to sell jewelry, sell potteds, like
yeah.
sterling silver jewelry. Yeah, just like knickknacks. Like I had so much stuff. I think that's
Wow.
the other really crazy thing when you are looking around your house and you're like, why do I have all this stuff? Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just crazy. I mean, that's really another thing that brings some peace is not having so much stuff.
Mm,
I mean, we're not minimalist by any means, but
right.
just all the clutter and keeping up with things, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what other ways, were there any other ways that so you worked extra? What other ways did you employ to get out of debt? And how long did it take you to knock that $100,000 out?
Yeah. So we paid off half of the debt by July. So that was my goal because I wanted to pay it off in a year. And then things like really slowed down. Like I had rolled all the coins, I had sold all the things I could sell. I needed to take a break from working so much because I was really
Yeah.
tired. And so then I kind of was like, oh gosh, I don't know if we're going to make it because we still have this much left to go. And we were out on our land. My husband and I were out on the land one day, and because we love camping, so we were just messing around and we were playing this game where we wanted to see if we could build a primitive cabin out of things that we already had, like without spending any money. Because we had all
Wow.
these trees and he has all these chainsaws and he's good at building things. So we were out on the land building our primitive cabin, and we noticed that the house and land adjacent to our land were for sale. And we were like, that's weird because it had just sold like 6 months before that. And we looked at each other and we were like, we should buy that. And
Whoa, 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 wait a minute. We got 50,000 to go and we're like, we're
yeah,
gonna buy more.
yeah. So probably like a month before that, I had called our realtor who sold us the house that we were living in because you know how like housing prices were crazy,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Because that was another thing. I was like, well, maybe we should sell this house and move somewhere else. So I had her come over and do an appraisal for us. Well, our little house in Cornelius that we bought for $246,000 was it appraising? Is that the word for it? Like it could have been listed for $750,000. Now we did do a lot of work on it. It was a lot nicer than when we bought it. But I was like, oh my gosh, that is like crazy. But we didn't do anything because we were like, well, where the heck are we going to move?
Gonna
Like
go.
everything
Yeah.
costs this much money yet. So that doesn't
Yes.
really make sense for us to sell our house. And I was not going to live in a tent in the woods with my children. I would do that with my husband probably, but not my children. So anyway, we were kind of like, okay, well, that's not really an option. But then when we were out on the land and we saw the house next door was for sale, we were like, oh my gosh.
Oh, so it had a house on it. Got it.
So
Okay.
it already had a house on
Okay.
it. So we ran next door to the people who live there who we hadn't met yet. And we were like, are you really moving? And they were like, yes. And we're like, we want to buy your house. And so we sold our house in Cornelius. And this was another like divine intervention because
Yeah.
we had it staged. I mean, and it was kind of crazy at our house because we had just been pulling everything out of the closets for the yard sale and everything, but
Yeah.
we had it staged and listed like in 5 days, I think. And then I think it was only like I think it was maybe 10 days. We had a full price cash offer.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, and then the house with the land on it was listed for less than what we just sold our house for. So we were able to pay off the other like $50,000 worth of debt, have
Wow.
have an emergency fund, which is also one of the baby steps.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we kept our mortgage basically the same because we were able to put enough money down on our house here to make it the same amount as our mortgage had been on our house in Cornelius.
Woo. So, well, okay. Wow. That does kind of feel divine. That we all remember when those houses the prices were crazy, and we know it's not like that now, and the interest rates are higher. But my goodness, you guys are willing to put it all on the table to just knock this out. And it really sounds like you came up because you already had 9 acres. And then how much did the other house have on it?
And like I guess 11. Yeah, because we have like 20
Wow.
altogether now.
Wow. Wow. And God's not making any more land. So that's a good investment.
Right.
That's a good investment. So you're
Yeah.
out of debt now. Like, how does that tell us how that felt? Like, how did that affect your relationship with your husband, your children? How did you feel when you were going into work every day now that you're out of debt?
So it was a little surreal for a little while. And I'm frugal by nature. Like my husband says, what does he say? He says, I'm so like stingy that I squeak when I walk or something like that. I don't remember the saying, but anyway, he is the free spirit and I'm the saver in our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
it was so when we were out of debt, so we actually exceeded our goal. So we were out of debt before Christmas. So it was 11 months or so of being on that debt journey. It was hard. We are very fortunate that we had some great things and great
Yeah.
opportunities, but it was hard. It was nonstop work for like those 11 months, and it was sacrifices, and there was a lot of hard stuff. But so when we finally got into the house, it was Christmas, and it was probably one of the best Christmases ever because for the first time I wasn't worried about money. Like how, what's our Christmas budget? What is, who's
Yeah.
getting what? I had our whole family was here. We had tons of food. We had presents, like all like I wasn't losing sleep over it like most years that I would
Mm,
lose sleep over trying to create like a magical holiday for my kids without going into debt for it.
that, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that was wonderful. And I will also tell you, as anticipated, Murphy showed up because Dave Ramsey always talks about that. He's like, Murphy's going to show up as soon as you feel safe.
Who is Murphy?
So Murphy's Law is just what you think. Everything's
Yes.
fine. Murphy's going to come in and, sweep your feet out from under you. And that totally happened. So we were debt free for a couple months. Well, more than a couple months, I would say, because we had an emergency fund. So, like a few weeks after everything was like situated, my paid off car decided to like die. So we had to get a new car.
New car. Okay.
So we had our emergency fund. So we were like, okay, we're going to keep following the steps. So we're going to go buy a car that we can afford. So we bought a car with cash, and then it turned out to be a lemon. So that was a struggle. So
Oh,
that has not been fun, but
was it a new car? Can a used car be a lemon or new cars are lemons?
oh, I don't know. I mean, it's a used car.
Oh, it's a used car. Okay.
It's a used car, but it hasn't been, it's very funny. She's very persnickety. She she only starts when it's warm out and only after pushing random buttons in a certain order, then she'll start. But once she starts, she's fine. And then she'll
It's
start the
good to
rest of the
go.
day. She just likes to wake up in the morning. Yeah, so it was great. For a couple weeks, everything was great. And then, the car broke down. My husband, who is self-employed, the weather didn't cooperate with him. So he suddenly wasn't making any money for about 9 months. And so I didn't really get to enjoy that feeling of having money for very long because we just flipped back to being a one income household. But I was
But
paying all the
you
bills.
had an emergency fund though, right? Did that give you some peace to know that you had that cushion?
Yeah, so for like 4 months or so, and then with him not making any money, that quickly went away.
Okay.
So I felt like, so I was very angry for a little while. I was like, we just did all of this work, why aren't we, living the dream now and being able to be generous? Because we had gotten to this point where I was like, we don't belong to a church. So we were contributing to like our charitable organizations. And I was like, this is great because that's one of the things that Dave Ramsey
Mm,
always talks about is like you want to live and give like no one else.
yeah.
And so I was budgeting in the equivalent of a tithe to organizations that were important to me. So then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing. Why,
Yeah.
why are there no jobs? Why is he not making any money? Why is my emergency fund just dwindling away to nothing? And this is why I think it is. In some ways, even though it was a lot of work, I feel like maybe we didn't learn our lesson. Like it was almost too easy, which it wasn't easy in terms of the time that we had to spend
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
But I was like, well, obviously there's more to learn. And so now we're kind of having to do a little bit of it again. So my car that was a lemon one day just would not start before I needed to go to work. And I am embarrassed to admit that I had a full blown temper tantrum about it. And went off and bought a brand new car, which that is not the Ramsey plan.
Can I
Um,
just say though, it's very refreshing because you sound very, very disciplined. And I know some people are like, I don't know if I have it in me. And then you just go off and buy a new car. It's like, okay, she is like us. She's
yeah,
like us.
yeah. So that was not a good plan. And like, I know better, like it's one of those
Yeah,
things
yeah,
where I knew, like, in my rational brain, like, I didn't need a brand new car,
right.
right? I didn't
Yeah.
need a brand new 2023 Honda hybrid SR or CRV, but I was so angry at that moment that I was like, I'm just going to get what I want to get. And Dave Ramsey says you should never make purchases based on emotions. So anyway, I bought that Honda, immediately had buyer's remorse. Like as soon as I was calmed down, I had buyer's remorse, and then I was angry about that. Every time I looked at it, I was like, "Oh, I hate you. You cost me this much money a month." And it was really fun. It was really funny. Like so strange to me. Like so many people would be like, "Oh, do you love your new car? Oh, that's so nice that you got that." And I'm like, "It's not nice that I have that." Like it's terrible. I hate it. But it's very eye-opening to how normal having debt is.
Mm,
Like
wow.
most
Yeah.
people are like, "Oh, you have a car payment." Duh, everybody has a car payment.
Everybody has a car payment. Yeah.
You're going to have a
Yeah.
car payment for your whole life. Or I recently had some conversations with some family members who were upset with me about some things. And it turns out that I think people just expect you to go into debt to keep up with whatever your kids want or whatever the social expectations are. So, if I'm like,
Mm,
well, I'm not really willing to go into debt over this,
nope.
no, people might get upset with you.
That's okay.
Yeah, but they
Because
might
they're
make you
not
want,
carrying the stress of the
right.
debt.
And I think it's really short-sighted. And I think, like we were saying earlier, we live in this place of like comfort and convenience. And I think I would say that this might be one of the only times where I might say it's this when you're thinking about your finances, thinking about the future might actually be better than living in the present.
Right. Sure.
Yeah, because normally
Sure.
I would be like, no, you need to try to be present and engaged in what is happening right now. But when it comes to your finances, if you're thinking about only, oh, well, all my friends are going to Tulum and I want to go to Tulum with them. They're only going to turn 40 one time and I want to be a part of that. And you're
Yeah.
not thinking, I want to be able to retire and enjoy my life at some point. The steps to get there aren't, like you're not going to get there because
Mm-hmm.
you're living too
Mm-hmm.
much in the present and you're not thinking about saving for the future.
Wow. Wow. That's good, Kate. There are
Yes.
a lot, I mean, you look on social media and everybody, there are girls' trips and, you're honeymooning and you're doing all the things and going to the Beyonce concert,
Oh my
and
gosh.
paying
And you
thousands
have
of
to have,
dollars.
yeah. And you got to buy a
Yeah.
special outfit to
Outfit.
go to
Right.
Beyonce or to go to
Exactly.
Taylor Swift or like, not,
Yes.
and like that's just another layer of this consumerism
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
we're all being manipulated by.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying people shouldn't have a good time. Like if you can afford it, if you can pay cash for it, if you're putting your money away for retirement, yes, enjoy your life. Have a birthday party for your dog. Like send them to doggy daycare, like do all these things. But if you can't afford that, then it doesn't make anything less special just because you don't have, all these extra, just because it's not social media worthy.
Right.
Just because you might not
Right.
want to post about it because, oh, your mom made your birthday cake. Oh, your mom loves you and she spent time making a birthday cake for you.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think
Great
that's a
way to
big,
reframe it.
yeah, it's a big crisis right now. I feel like in our communities is identifying with images that you see on social media, even though you know that that's not real.
Real.
it's still something that our kids are being so sucked into and measuring themselves against so much. I have one of my kids, oh, she loves her expensive things. Like I've heard her say if it's not the best, she doesn't even want it. And
Does she have a job?
she does have a job now, and she also has two grandmothers who are very willing to spend their money on Lululemon and Mac or not, well, I helped buy her MacBook, but she had to pay for half of it, but like new iPhones and
Yeah.
just everything. It's bewildering to me. But again, when I do my diaries about, and that's why I started doing the diary because I was like, I don't want to keep finding myself back in this place. So I did sell my Honda. I sold it. We are upside down in the loan, which I mean, that is terrible. Like to
Yeah.
have to pay for something that you don't even have
You
anymore.
don't have, that's what upside down means, folks.
Yeah. So, but
Yes.
a $10,000 loan is a lot better than a $40,000 loan. So that
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
least it feels manageable. So, yeah, so doing the diary now and looking at the way I was raised versus the way my husband was raised is it's very enlightening
Yeah.
for hopefully not finding ourselves in this situation again.
This is a great place to kind of wrap this up because, we often hear about people who get out of debt and then life is great and everything is hunky dory. But as you said, Murphy comes around. But it's different this time because you guys have a plan, you have a system, and you can get back on track with it, which
Hmm.
is the same with, most of our lifestyle choices. If you know that you're going to exercise 4 days a week, and you're not going to eat out on these days, when you get off track, you just go right back to your
Right.
plan.
Hmm.
And it's a way to manage it. It's a way to manage it.
Right.
So I'm sure this is not a place where you want yourself to be again, but you have learned how to do this. You have built some muscle in this area, and to me it doesn't feel like this would be as daunting as it was before, because you're like, I've been here, we've done that.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree that it's just like any of the pillars of health that, and I think your pillars are the same as my pillars when I taught wellness. Everything's always going to be shifting, to stay
Yeah.
in balance.
Yeah.
And you need to have that structure and that good foundation so that when you need a little bit more stability in one area, you know what to do and you have it. And also remembering that nobody's perfect and
Yeah.
things are going to happen. And it's not about thinking, oh, I can't do this or, why is this happening to me? It's okay. I have all the tools that I need.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a constant. It's never going to be done. Just like you can't eat healthy for 1 week and be done. You can't exercise for 1 week and done. You can't, do things for your mental health and then be done. These are lifestyle choices and,
Yeah. Yeah.
lifestyle habits. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Wow. Well, that is okay. I'm just giving you a round of applause, because part of what I think that I want to put out in the social media space and just out into the world is real people living real lives, that you look like us, you sound like us. I mean, definitely, there were definitely some come ups and opportunities that you had. But what I really appreciate about your story is your focus, and that this was only for a season. And
mhm,
so you're here where you are now because of the choices you made then. And
right.
so for those people who are in situations that they feel like they can't get out of, you absolutely can. You just have to focus,
Yeah.
have a plan that is going to get you where you need to go.
And the focus needs to be on what you want, not what
Mm,
you don't want. Because, like they say, energy flows where attention goes. So, focusing on abundance and freedom and the way that you're going to feel when your goal is achieved, that's where
mm.
your focus should be.
Whoa. So I was getting ready to ask you to kind of, leave us with one nugget, but
There you go.
I think that was a nugget.
Yeah.
Okay, say that one more time. Your focus, your energy. Say it
So,
again.
and this is not mine. This is from, I think,
Yeah.
from The Secret or something, some of all those
Yeah.
books that I read back in the day. Your energy flows where attention goes. So if your
Mm,
attention is on abundance, on health, on, whatever you're trying to attract into your life more, that's what you're going to draw to you. So
mm.
focusing on that outcome as if you
Wow.
already have it.
Right. And I would also like to say that there will probably be less weathering because there's some hope in that, as
Hmm.
opposed to I'm in $100,000 worth of debt. I'm never going to get out. La 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 la. Your mental health is really taking a hit every time you kind of stay in the mud. So,
Yeah.
oh, I love that, and that's a beautiful, beautiful place to end. I will say you mentioned Dave Ramsey several times. I too have done Financial Peace. Well, back in the day, it was Financial Peace University.
Hmm.
It's affordable. I think it's very simple, wise advice that I think most people can get their heads around. You don't work for Dave Ramsey. I don't work for Dave Ramsey, but it just so happens if you're trying to get out of debt and you Google how to get out of debt, Dave
Right.
Ramsey will probably pop
Yeah,
up.
he will
So
for sure. Or any of the other shows from his network, which are all really funny. But and it's free, like free resources, unless you do
yeah.
FPU, which does definitely have value.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not, I think when I did it was like $99 and it
It's
was very,
yeah, it's still about that, and you get the budgeting app now. I mean, it's all kinds of
yeah,
cool
yeah.
stuff.
Okay, so we usually wrap up with, how can our guests get in touch with you if they want to work with you? Like, I don't know if you're like a consultant, but I think you'd be a good one. Is
Uh,
there a way that we can, like, if somebody's like, you know what, I want her to be my coach, or I want her to walk me through some things? Do you have that set up yet?
I don't really. I've been thinking about that. I actually just listened to a webinar about actually being a financial coach through the Ramsey Network, but it costs a lot of money, and I'm on a debt diet right now. So, so yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the next few months hold for me, but I'm on Instagram. My Instagram is go to ground. And then we also have a YouTube channel, which is also go to ground. And that has some funny videos on it. My husband with his chainsaws, which they get a lot of views. There's a lot of men out there who like to watch trees get chopped down, I guess. So like either of those ways, yeah. So I'm kind of open at the moment to like a career change and to see how I can
Yeah,
best serve people and
yeah.
and be helpful.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on and sharing your story. And I have to make a car purchase, and I'm sitting here like, dang it, I can't get the car I want to get right now because
Yeah.
so I know it's helped me. Definitely has helped me. And I'm sure it will help a lot of our listeners. So, you guys, if you want to kind of keep up with Kate, go to grounds. That's what she heard. And now that's her Instagram. So,
Yep.
definitely some power there. So, thank you so much, Kate,
Thank
for
you. This
coming
was
on.
fun.
And
Yeah.
this is another episode, another fabulous, awesome, empowering episode of Office Visits with Dr. V. So we'll see you next time.